Yeah, so I agree with you. I also found it interesting. Oh, let me just do an introduction. So welcome to those of you joining later on through the YouTube. If you haven't joined us before, my name's Shaylen, and next to me is my mother, Anjan Ben, and we are students from the London Centre. And this is a chit chat really for all of our self-progress, and we welcome people to ask questions and to share things. And then we'll also have a morally reading on the topic. Today's topic is the wealth of sympathy because it came up in yesterday's lesson. And Sister Lynette was just commenting how it is unusual in the moralies to hear the word sympathy. Even the Hindi word, Lynette, is actually not used in the morally that much. The Hindi word is sahan anubhuti. And as you have pointed out, Baba tends to use the word rehem, daya or kripa, and rehem, R-U-H-E-M, that means mercy. Daya, D-U-Y-A, that means compassion. And kripa, K-R-I-P-A, that means grace. And those are the three words that are more usual in the moralies. So you will hear, and I would like us to actually break this down in today's discussion, that how should we define these differences? Mercy, compassion, grace, and sympathy. And I think with sympathy, he means empathy. I think he means empathy with that, you know. And I think it's only in the Avyakt Moralines that this word sympathy comes up, but only from my memory, one or two Moralines. You know, this is not even that common in the Avyakt Moralines. And so we are going to hear the morally from which that blessing was extracted today. And Baba loves to play with words, so he's playing with the word sympathy, which is wealth, S-U-M-P-U-T-I, and the English word sympathy. So it sounds really good, actually, the sympathy of sympathy. And got the considering sympathy to be a treasure. How Baba looks at it is also very interesting. I shared a churning from one sister, but then another sister from, I think from Trinidad, she had written to me just with the dictionary definition of sympathy. And it is interesting that it was along the lines of feeling others' sorrow. So how we might define sympathy and bhakti is also different to Baba's definition. If you've got sorrow and I feel your sorrow, then that's a method we use in bhakti to make each other feel better. That you cry and I cry with you, you know, then you feel that I care. And you can see how many of our old sanskars could also be linked with these different beliefs in bhakti. There are some traditions out there where you're almost forced to cry, particularly when someone has died, for example. I know that there are some traditions that if the widow doesn't cry, that is scandalous. So, and then we have this phrase in English, I don't know if it's in other countries as well, called crocodile tears, where crocodiles are said to shed tears before they snap you up. And this sort of show of tears, this show of sympathy is also then part of that sort of, it's like all the masking, isn't it? All different masks that we develop through sympathy as well. And then Baba refers to the ceremony of Hai Hussein in Islam. And Ranjan Ben, so you saw that Hai Hussein, didn't you, when you were in Africa? What was that like?
Yeah, they just because it was their saint, their prophet who left the body, and so every year it's in Iran as well. It's a sect, you know, the Sunni Muslim, not, but these are Shia Muslims. They believe in Hussein, and they beat themselves with chains, and they really so they cry, and this is how they show their love and sympathy for his death.
Baba refers to the horse of Hussein. So Hussein was this military leader. I think he was one of the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad. And he, if the horse returns without the rider, you know what's happened. So this is why they decorate the horse of Hussein in this festival, that the horse returned to give the message in the camp that the leader is gone. And so this was what, 1,000 years ago, 1,200 years ago, something like that. But every year reliving that sorrow. And then one thinks of Christianity, and Easter is a very sorrowful festival, even now for Christians. And early Christians, Ranjaben and I had visited an exhibition at Oxford University a few years back about how different early traditions develop symbols, borrow from each other. And they were explaining that in the first 400 years of Christianity, they avoided using the cross as a symbol because the cross was that symbol of defeat. Our savior has actually been killed. It was not celebrated. And it was from the 5th century onwards that they began to turn it into something which was a celebration, that look, he has died for you, for your sins. So this is his sympathy in action. Now you must also feel that sorrow. So if you think the Catholic ceremonies on Sunday, here is the bread, the body of Christ. Here is the wine, the blood of Christ, this transfiguration that occurs of that. It's very bizarre, isn't it? Like if someone went and drank someone's blood or something, he would think this is very, very bizarre. But it's all about sympathy, isn't it? It's all about empathy. Then one thinks of Ramadan and the fast for a month, and then there are many different fasts in many different traditions. And one of the ideas behind not eating all day is you begin to understand hunger. So when you feel hunger, you then are more likely to do for the hungry. So a lot of what we learn about sympathy on the path of bhakti is linked to that dictionary definition, which is feeling the sorrow of others. And what we were hearing from, I can see Sister Jagitha has joined us. I'm Shanti, Sister. Hello, good morning, good morning.
Om Shanti, good morning, Bhai Didis.
So it was actually Sister Jagitha who wrote that churning that I sent you all yesterday. So great that she could be here. And Sister Jagitha, after you sent the churning, it inspired others. And so I chose this should be the theme. And one of the messages I got was from one sister was the dictionary definition of sympathy, which is feeling the sorrow of others. And we're just talking about the difference between mercy, compassion, grace, and sympathy. And this sympathy in bhakti is about feeling sorrow. But as you explained, and when we read Baba's Murali, Baba definitely isn't saying to us, feel the sorrow of others. He is very much talking about being in a very powerful, full state. And by calling sympathy wealth, he's talking about it as a resource rather than as an emotion. Now, one of the more regular questions that Daddy Janki was asked in public lectures was that when someone is feeling sorrowful, how can we not feel sorrow for them? Because someone's crying in front of you, you feel like crying. And invariably, Daddy's answer was, if you're crying, can you remove their tears? And this is really the message. So you see some of the photos of Daddy, don't you, where she's like in that Shakti form, really conveying that despite being very loving, very like Daddy would spend most of her day listening to people actually. So that, I think, part of sympathy is this act of listening. And when you watch Bap Dada's videos, you can learn a lot. So Ranjan Ben and I have a hobby of watching videos. We've always loved it. We've always loved reading Moralies too. But when you are, oh yes, I'll just mention again, my apologies to everyone. Today we're on mobile internet. We've had all sorts of problems with our internet. So if the connection is unstable or if we get disconnected, then sisters, you should just carry on chatting and we'll rejoin you when we can. So what we have is this, when you look at Bap Dada, one of the key features of learning from Baba is his listening skills. If you watch how Baba communicates, he's actively listening with very clear eye focus on the person speaking. And his attention is fully on that person. And we can learn a lot from that. I think that that's a feature of this wealth of sympathy. Why is it that we share our heart with the one soul who cannot empathize? Isn't that remarkable? As Baba said this morning, Shiv Baba doesn't take a rebirth. He doesn't go around the cycle like you do. So the one soul that cannot empathize with us is the one soul we share our heart with. So what does that tell us? It tells us that this wealth of sympathy is not about feeling others' sorrow. It's Shiv Baba is able to give us this feeling of sympathy and also fill us with power to let go. He's able to fill us with the power to move on. So Daddy Janki as well would spend, I reckon Daddy would spend 10 hours a day listening to people. That would probably be her normal, lots and lots of listening, talking as well, but listening. And her big point, like her most regular comment to you if you went to her to ask anything or share anything, would be past is past. And I think this is part of sympathy, as Baba defines it. So the sympathy we have in Bhakti is dwelling on the past. So whether it's different religious ceremonies, they're all past focused, and most of Bhakti is past focused, right? Someone has gone, Christ has gone before, Hussein has gone before. So we're many traditions where we're trying to relive past sorrow. We're commemorating death all the time. The most common regular contrast example that Baba uses for the Golden Age and Silver Age is death. And let's think about sympathy in that context. Baba says that in the Golden Age, you don't even have a word for death. Isn't that remarkable? So our training of confluence age, of past is past, becomes so powerful. that we're not actually dwelling on anyone. We are perceiving the future journey of the soul rather than dwelling on a loss of the past. And I think our experience, when I sit inside myself and look inside my third eye, I think how it perceives to the deity is just one continuum of 21 births. Like, I don't think there's an experience. When you sit in eternity, you don't have the experience of something starting and stopping, starting and stopping. You have the feeling you're just on a continuum. So I think that's how eternity feels. It's just one big continuum. So when Shiv Baba talks to us about death as well, this week we've had some Murlis on this, haven't we? No, so, okay, we've got death, and Baba's comment is always, well, you just take another body. So it's like he's on a continuum. He's just looking at everyone on a continuum. And what's the problem? What's the big deal? And it's a very different way of looking at it. So I think in the deity consciousness, we don't really have sympathy in that way because we have this past is past. So Baba and Daddy at Confluence Age, that's what they are and were empowering in us. This past is past, I think, is part of this sympathy. And then let's have a look at some of the narratives this week surrounding punishment. We've had a few Murlis where Baba has spoken about not creating any more karmic accounts, settling past accounts. And he has said that it will come in the form of physical illness. You will settle through the jail of the womb. You will settle in the land of Dharamraj. Now, when you listen to that narrative, it doesn't seem very sympathetic. And how Baba balances sympathy with power, with knowledge. So it's got sympathy and knowledge, love and power. So at Confluence Age, we have to bring everything into balance. In Bhakti, if we're detached, if we're using power, it just seems unsympathetic. It just seems mean. But at Confluence Age, it's all linked with moving on. This type of sympathy that souls often want from us is the sympathy that doesn't move on. People don't want to move on from their sorrows. They want to commemorate their sorrows. They want to dwell on their sorrows. They want to wallow in their sorrows. Often, the sorrow has become part of the identity. So when you say to a soul, let go, move on, actually, they feel like they're losing part of themselves. And if you look at what Baba does, he tells us the essence of 63 births, but no details. He doesn't take us into some hypnosis and regression. Let's relive everything. But actually, his narrative is much more around, these are old sanskars of your past life. You've now got a new birth. You've been adopted through Brahma, fresh start. He even uses this narrative of 21 births, when we know we've got 8 in the golden age, 12 in the silver age. So he's saying, actually, your new cycle has already started. This is the first of your 21. Your old cycle has now ended. So for Baba, the wealth of sympathy is around empowering a soul to let go. And let go, but not feel a loss. And so this is an art, I think, we have to do. And we might find souls, particularly if they're not BKs, who struggle with our form of sympathy. But those are my thoughts on it. I'll let you all come in. I'd like to give you all a couple of topics to churn on and share just before we begin the morally. So the first one is, how are we defining the differences between mercy, compassion, grace, and sympathy? As I mentioned, those first three words, Rehem, Daya, and Kripa, they are more normal in the morally. Sympathy is less regular. And then the second, I was asked a question by a sister from Australia, I think, that in this morning's morally, Baba was talking about the power of good wishes, and I did make some comments this morning on it. So she had asked that, can we give some more concrete examples of what it means to have good wishes? What does it look like? So I think that's an interesting question, and I said I would bring it up today, so you can all think on it, those two things. And you can, while you think about it, you can share before we go into the morally. But if anyone would like to come in on anything, Ranjan Ben, if you'd like to come in on it. Yeah, please come in if anyone would like to. I'm going to just I'm just going to try and swap back to the normal internet just in case it works, because I know that it's breaking up a little bit. So if we get cut off, don't worry, I'll rejoin. Please continue.
I like that topic on mercy. Or globally, without having that attachment to it, without looking at your perspective, just giving it up and sending all that love and good wishes and everything for that particular person, that particular situation, that particular country. And, you know, if you are in a more stable and a more pure state to give what that person or situation needs. So I like that topic on mercy. I like that that word mercy in that sense. Shanti.
Shanti, thank you for that. I like that connection you've made between mercy and non-attachment. That's an interesting one to think of.
Shanti.
Shanti.
As Leonard was saying, really to have mercy is really not to have, or to have merciful feeling is like, in the way that Baba will have mercy, is to be not attached. And as you pointed out, you know, when you look at Baba, always Baba is fully focused, but completely detached. And to really be able to reach souls with merciful feeling is also given power. Power is important because that's how you can support the soul. But once I have a desire which comes out of attachment, it doesn't reach the soul. It doesn't empower the soul. So to have merciful feeling, to have empathy, to have compassion is really wanting that soul to become better. But without that desire and wanting this outcome, you know, not focusing on the outcome, but focusing on the present of what the soul needs at this point, you know, and it is really being compassionate, but also having the soul to be independent. There's an independence that I am given and they do not become dependent on me or wherever it is coming from. So it's not being attached for myself to the outcome, but focusing on how I need to have this soul independent by making this soul, giving this soul power. All the power comes through us, yes, but it's from Baba. At the end of the day, it's Baba. So it's focusing on the soul without, as I said before, the desire that the outcome will be this. Yes, it is a pure desire, but not focusing on the thing, but on the moment. And really, I think to become merciful is allowing that soul that level of becoming independent. That's what I feel is when we work on souls in that way. Shanti.
I think that's really nicely put. Actually, you reminded me as you were speaking of Devi Janki's classes. She used to talk about that as well. She used to say, don't become dependent on anyone and don't make anyone dependent on you. That's really crucial. So I think you're absolutely right about that. So we're building together, we're piecing together maybe a definition of mercy surrounding non-attachment and empowerment. So it's very different, isn't it? Like when someone's asking for mercy from a king or from the court, or they're completely powerless, aren't they? So what you're defining is something very different. Usually you ask for mercy, for clemency, when you've got no power. But what you are suggesting is that actually it's about empowering. Sister Jagita, did you want to come in?
Om Shanti. Yes, I loved what the Didi shared because I think it's a balance about how Baba is detached and loving, because Baba only wants benefits for us. He doesn't need anything. That's why Baba is above being influenced. So we can check ourselves if there is even a little bit of attachment when we have pure wishes and something happens that's not according to your pure wishes and you even get disturbed a little bit, you can know that there is still a little bit of attachment in that. So I love the checkpoint is, am I totally detached and loving while having pure wishes? So because only then you can be like Baba. So it will reach the souls.
Yeah. So we're all piecing together some understandings there. It's all coming together. That's really useful surrounding mercy. So, Judy Ben, did you want to come in with anything? Yeah, I appreciate you might be busy elsewhere with something. Yep. I think she might be busy with something else. Would anyone else like to share anything?
Brother, on the topic of compassion, in my mind, you know what, there are so many souls who are so angry and create so much disturbances and they think they are right, their ego is so very high and everything. And I think compassion, feeling compassion for those souls who will listen to nothing but, you know, they're right and their way of thinking is the way it is supposed to be. You follow their rule, and if you don't do it, they become angry. Having compassion for those souls important, so that, because all you could do is send God's vibrations to them, hoping that, you know, they would change, their whole mental state will change. So I believe in giving compassion is a very powerful thing to souls who are lost, and that's my feeling on compassion.
Nice. Any other thoughts on compassion? Benjamin, if you want to share anything.
Brother, we last weekend and this weekend we are doing a workshop with Sarah Agard. She's actually doing this for the Caribbean. And it was quite interesting, you know, when she asked, and this was just for the BKs, where compassion is concerned. I think the topic is self-compassion for the self, nurturing my self-compassion. And what came out of that, particularly now for Brahmins, is that when she asked the question, when we look at others, how do we feel if they're going through a tough time? And most of us would have answered that, yeah, there's so much empathy and you feel love, you seek the support. And then she also asked if we are going through this ourselves, how do we feel about ourselves? And most of us would have said, you know, we beat up ourselves, how we speak, to the words we speak, oh, you should not have done that, you know better. And what it pointed out many times for the self, we don't have compassion or that depth of compassion. And for BKs in particular at this time, I believe is that sometimes when we falter, we're very judgmental because we know what Baba is telling us, we did not follow. And I think for now, BKs, I'm talking about BKs, I am seeing where, you know, things are erupting, Baba is saying things are erupting. And really, as Leonard is saying, that we have to have, yes, the compassion for ourselves. If we don't have it, Baba always says, if we don't have it, how do we give it? And it is really empowering the self with this unlimited love, not with ego attached to it, but unlimited love that we can give. And that whatever a BK or whatever a person on the world is going through, you know, it's an exercise within the self, the powers to be able to help that soul. And mostly sometimes it's just through the mind, to give that soul support, because sometimes they're not aware of where they are until that realization comes on. Is that really not having compassion for the self and beating of ourselves? It's like violence to the soul. It's like a violence towards the self. And being able to send such love and not to judge, and give that individual or persons the time to be able to come to that realization, because they will come to the realization. So really all encompasses the mercy, the love, the compassion, empathy, you know, have it for the self, empowering the self so that you can influence then others that are going through whatever it is they have to go through. Om Shanti.
Thank you for sharing. What about grace?
For me, grace is really, I think, accepting. You show grace in that whatever is happening at the time with an individual or situation, you use grace. How you accept it with a lot of love and gentleness. That's what I see as having grace in whatever is going on at the particular time. You know, not adding to it in any negative way. You know,
That's
show
nice.
grace.
That's very helpful.
But in Murli, Baba says, when some children say, oh, Baba, have mercy on me, help me, Baba says, you have to study, you have to have mercy for yourself. Kripa in Hindi, word is kripa karo. Baba says you have to study. You need to have mercy for yourself.
That word is grace. That word kripa is grace. Rehem means mercy. So sometimes he does use the word rehem, and sometimes he does use the word kripa.
Kripa. But Baba says you have to help, help yourself. And like Mama says, even if someone gives you a glass of water when you're thirsty, but still you have to make an effort to lift the glass, to drink, to swallow and digest the water even. So I mean, there's, grace. Someone who is graceful wouldn't be dependent or wouldn't ask someone to do that, would have grace for self and for others. That's what Baba is saying, that you have to make your own effort. Study, you have to have your own dignity. That's what, when Baba says kripa or mercy in the Murlis, that's what he means.
And what about, like we were hearing this morning in the drill, when Baba says, Hey Kripalu?
But these are, we give titles to Baba, but
No,
this,
to us, Baba gives us that title, Hey Kripalu.
yeah,
By the-
we can use Baba's titles because we are masters and Baba's children, but we need to use it in a, not in a bhakti way, in a devotion, it's because they have this, a sort of low self-esteem or a habit of asking God to do things. Whereas here, Baba says we are so different because we have a right. And there are mullis, sorry, there are mullis about that as well, that Baba says this is the difference between the devotees and us, because we have a right and we claim our rights. We claim our inheritance by staying in our self-respect with Baba's help, with Baba's Srimad, Baba's Murlis, Baba's teachings. Whereas in devotion, they don't have this self-esteem, or they're always asking. And so that is the difference. So we can be like Baba, Bab Saman, we say we become equal to Baba. So if we have this, imbibe this claim or Baba's name, like different names people give to God according to his task. So we can also do it the same way, like daddies are worshipped. We all are worshipped, but daddies are worshipped, some are worshipped more because it's according to their capacity of being Bab Saman, equal to Baba. And using like that, like Baba, not begging, but instead having that real mercy, real compassion, knowing what and giving it the powers and all, but not asking for the self, but giving it. So we also can use Baba's titles of merciful, graceful, but not in the way that the devotees ask. But everybody's not going to have that strength, and they're going to ask. So we also can help Baba. Baba says, "You are my helpers." So, but not having that selfish motive or not having for ours. Baba says that's why accumulate. So we are able to give like Baba. Our hands should always be like this, giving, not asking. We are Baba's children, deities, always are shown giving the wealth of powers, wealth of knowledge, wealth of virtues. That's our real wealth. So that's what I say. That's why Baba gives us. We can use Babas. We are master. Children are always, we say, you are master. So whatever belongs to Baba belongs to us. So in that way, not using for ourselves, not asking anything, but giving like Baba.
Mr. Chigita, did you want to come in?
I was just I was just thinking about it, what Didi says, and it is, but and what Ambika Didi also said, and it is all about you have to become, only then you can give, and that's why our effort must be to become like Baba. And because when we become like Baba, the other part goes automatically, because we will be selflessly, and we will be able to give and give. So the effort lies in becoming like Baba, our effort. And I also, something came into my mind that in our Murli class, they are reading points of senior daddies and didis with mama, their experience. And one of the things that I remember is that someone asked her that everybody is coming in front of you talking about problems, weaknesses, other. Doesn't it influence you while listening? And the answer that Mama gave was that the only thing that comes into her mind is that everyone is an effort maker. So there is no judgment about the person who is telling the things, but also not about the person they are telling the things about. So that's the way it is. I really like that point, to keep that point in my mind, how we can become non-judgmental towards ourselves and towards others.
That is a good point. Would anyone else like to come in?
The topic on grace, I believe grace is something, it's a quality that you develop within yourself. So when others see you or your actions, they look at you in a different way. They don't look at you in a negative way, a positive way. They want to follow you, look, they admire the life you live. And in that way, you could help other souls as well, because they want to become like you. But grace is a quality that is an elevated quality within the soul that comes out in your everyday actions, that others see, and they look at you in that elevated way. And in that way, you are able to have souls say, look, I want to be like that person, and they change. And that's the way I look at grace. Om Shanti.
That's nice. Anything you want to say? That's nice. I like that too. So as you've been speaking, I've been thinking as well. So I think for mercy, when you hear it in Hindi, there's a close connection between mercy and generosity. The phrase that you'll be familiar with in the Murli is merciful hearted. So in Hindi, that's Rahem Dil. Dil is heart, D-I-L, and Rahem Dil. So it's merciful hearted. And the way Baba uses it is that we've got to be generous. So Baba is merciful hearted towards us. He keeps giving and sharing. And he used to say to Lady Janki as well that she is very Rahamdil. And it's this generosity of spirit. So the merciful heartedness is in all of those types of giving, and even if it's like giving people chances, as you said, or not judging that, all of that, there's a generosity that underpins all of the points you've mentioned. And I think you're right that if we're not feeling full inside, we're going to struggle to keep that generosity. We're going to shut down at some point. Then I think compassion is to do with perseverance, and where we're not actually doing something because someone else is doing something in return. Whatever a person is behaving like, whatever their character is like, there's this unconditionality. So Lady Janki used to say, what do I have to do? Okay, this person is doing this, but what do I have to do? And so it's this endurance, this perseverance in, say, for example, I have to be peaceful. So if I am able to have endurance in my peace, that's actually compassion. If I've got endurance in my love, that's compassion. And then I think grace, because we say God's grace, and this grace, I think, is linked with the power of blessings. So I think I was mentioning just now to Ranjan Ben that when you listen to Baba's drills, that's when he tends to use this title for us. So there's one or two drills where Baba says that he can hear the cries of the souls of the world. And he says, hey, and the word is kripalu, the bestowers of grace. Can you not hear? And he's saying to all the Brahmins, can you not hear? You're just in your own worlds, doing your own little things. But what about all of them? And it's very powerful and sweet at the same time to hear that from Baba and look at Baba in the video as he's saying this, because he's saying that should you be really doing things on a petty level? Should you really be worrying about all these small things when you got a big task? And as I was listening to it the other day, I was thinking how, or maybe I was thinking this morning, that how as the path of bhakti has continued, devotees are feeling less attainment. So in the Copper Age, we were getting more, we were feeling greater satisfaction from our bhakti. And as time has gone on, they're getting less. So Baba seems to be saying that that could be linked with our stock of accumulation. And Baba says that the law of energy is such that it goes through time and space. So what the Brahmins accumulate in the previous cycle, it then spreads through the idols in the Copper Age. So souls go in front of an idol, and even now they can gain some attainment. But that attainment seems to be diminished compared to the Copper Age, because the stock presumably depletes over time. So I think that maybe grace is linked with our accumulation of treasures, accumulation of blessings. When a devotee goes in front of an idol, they don't want to have to do anything. And I think what Baba is saying is, Brahmins, you have to make the effort for everyone else. You have to accumulate the stock from Baba's treasures. We saw this with our senior daddies, that I was in a center like London where we had Daddy Janki a lot of the time, and then we had so many visitors, so many senior daddies, always coming. And many students in the class, they like to be sustained. You know, they're not really looking to sustain, but they like to be sustained. And just being in Daddy's presence, receiving Daddy's drishti, that's very satisfying. So Daddy, I think, was sharing the grace there that she accumulated. She absorbed Baba's treasures and Baba's blessings. And then others, without having to make effort. Brahmins like to go to Madhaban. Baba mentioned Madhaban this morning in the Murali. So Mama, Baba, Daddies, Dadas, they've filled a place with energy. And so there's less effort. The souls will just go there. You could almost make no effort and you're coming back with lots of attainments. And that, I think, is grace. So as you've been talking, I've been thinking, I think it's, in my mind, all the points you shared, I thought were really very helpful. So when I'm thinking how it applies to God, so God's mercy, God's compassion, God's grace, and I think Baba's generosity and his act of coming, his act of teaching, his making himself available, that's his mercy. As Ranjan Ben said, he comes as the teacher. Then his compassion is just his endurance. He's not worried about our up and down, like Sister was saying about Mama as well. He knows there's going to be all the ups and downs, but his peace is permanent, it's enduring. His love is enduring. And then his grace, that he just is sharing blessings. He says, get up from Amrit Vela, follow Srimat. You've got to do things to access. But there's a lot that we get that is not really our effort. Baba's giving us all sorts of bonuses all the time. So I think that's his grace as well.
Like this morning's Murli, Baba said, students cannot say, I don't have time to study. So Baba said, well, then sit at home, but you lose, your loss is yours, a great loss. You won't be able to claim anything. So we have to make an effort. And as a mother, as a parent, and Baba is a compassionate, like a mother. You know, she knows what child needs. Or Baba always steps in.
So let's hear the morally, and then you can think about examples of how good wishes work. I mentioned one this morning where when you watch the morally video, as we do every Sunday at the moment, it was I think two Sundays ago, where it was a lovely scene really at the end of the morally to see Dadi Janki and Dadi Prakashwani either side of Baba after the morally. When you read the transcript, there's like no commentary about that. So it just sort of flows. Baba begins talking about the daddies, that they're not well. But actually in the video, they arrive on the stage while Baba's talking. And I think it's significant that he was saying how Devi Prakashwani had some heart trouble. And Baba's metaphor was, well, the problem was like a stone, but because of everyone's love, it became like water. And I think that's a very, very tangible effect, that how good wishes can actually affect even physical health. I think that there are good wishes that are linked with the service of the mind. There are good wishes through words, and there are good wishes in actions. So sometimes soul doesn't need us to just have good wishes in our mind. They need us to do something. And so it's actually by doing the act of good wishes that's needed at a certain time. If you've got to look after someone, look after them. And don't just talk about it. Then sometimes we can use knowledge, of course, share knowledge, share some words, and there's good wishes in the words, and people will feel the motive behind your words. And the Genki used to share one or two stories about Mama, where there's a memorial in Bhakti of Shankar having a blue throat. And the story is around the time of churning the ocean. So everyone in Bhakti, the demons and the deities, they're all after nectar. There are stories around this. So in order to have nectar emerge, you have to churn the ocean. So they depict Vishnu incarnating as a large tortoise. And together with Vishnu, the great snake that he lies upon, he incarnates. So the snake wraps around the tortoise and the tortoise spins. And this is how the ocean is churned. And then the nectar emerges. But Vishnu explains that at the time when, I think they go to Brahma. Brahma explains you have to pray to Vishnu, ask Vishnu to come, Vishnu will come, like this. But at the time when the nectar emerges, Brahma explains you'll also need to pray to Shiva Shankar, because poison emerges at the same time as nectar. And he's the only one that can tolerate poison. So they pray, the deities and the demons pray to Shiva Shankar. And initially, Shankar is just like a normal color. But then you'll notice in the pictures, he's then depicted as being blue. color. And initially it was just his throat that is depicted as being blue. And Daddy Genki used to explain that this throat being blue is a symbol of the power of words, having yoga power in our words. And she used to give the example of Mama, that Mama had such yoga power that even if someone was very, very angry with the Brahma Kumaris or anything else, and they come in front of Mama, Mama would be able to speak words which would draw the poison from the soul. And so she would say this was the memorial of Shankar drinking the poison. So it's the power of words in the form of these good wishes filled with yoga power. And then I think there's good wishes through the mind. And as I was mentioning this morning, that one of the drills that we were listening to at Amrit Vela, Baba was saying that he looks around the world and there are so many souls who've lost hope with their own lives. They are not happy anymore. They feel like they've got no support from any direction, and they've lost all courage. And Baba is saying, children, you are going to need to put wings of courage back into these souls. So that he's not talking about them becoming BKs, but just that they're able to get on with their own lives, being able to cope. And I think it's very moving when you hear and watch Baba say this. And what Baba is saying is that, children, you have to have such yoga power that your good wishes can reach inside these souls so that their courage is restored. So to give an example, one of my aunties in India, her daughter, so one of my cousins, 18-month-old child died in surgery a few months ago. And you can imagine for the young mother what effect that would have on the mental health. And so when we found out, we offered Bhog for the soul, and we've been sending yoga vibrations. And then just a few days ago, my auntie said that for the last 2 months, her mental health has become positive again. So I very much feel that it's a practical effect of these good wishes, that if we use our good wishes, target it with yoga power, it can then reach inside of the soul and remove the sorrow from inside of the soul, empower the courage inside of the soul. So you can think about that as well while we hear the Murali, and maybe afterwards you'd like to share something. So I'll hand over to Ranjan. We'll read up until the love and remembrance.
And then the wealth of sympathy.
Yeah, that's before the love and remembrance. 26 October. Yeah.
Om Shanti. Good morning to all. Well, actually, I should say good afternoon. It's 12:15 in the afternoon here. It might be morning to you, some of you. So it's both good morning and good afternoon. So this is Avyakt Bhaktada. The date of the Murli is 26/10/1991. 26th October 1991. And the topic is Tapasya makes you into kings. So Baba says today, Bap Dada is seeing all his royal Tapasvi children. You are Tapasvis and you also have a right to the kingdom. This is why you are Tapasvi Rajas. Tapasya means to have a right to the kingdom. Tapasya makes you into kings. All of you have become kings, have you not? What fruit does the power of tapasya give? It changes you from being dependent into those who have a right. That is, it makes you into kings. This is why it has been remembered that you claim the fortune of the kingdom through tapasya. How elevated your fortune is. No one can claim such fortune throughout the entire kalpa. Why is this? Do you know? Your fortune is so great that you have made the bestower of fortune belong to you. There is no need for each of you to ask for the different types of fortune individually. You have claimed all types of fortune from the bestower of fortune as an inheritance. An inheritance is never asked for. The bestower of fortune himself has given you all fortune. Tapasya means that the soul says, I am yours and you are mine. This is called tapasya. With the power of this tapasya, you have made the bestower of fortune belong to you. Baba, the bestower of fortune, also says, I am yours. So how elevated your fortune is. Together with receiving fortune, you have now also received the kingdom of the self. The future kingdom of the world depends on the kingdom of the self. This is why you are tapasvi rajas. Bap Dada is also pleased seeing all his children who have a right to the kingdom. Do you remember what you said in bhakti for many births in front of the Father? Do you remember? You said again and again, I am your slave. I am your slave. And Baba says, I am the children's slave. You are the children of the Almighty Authority. And so, how can you be the slaves? This does not suit you. This is why instead of I am your slave, what experience did Baba give you? Baba gave you the experience of him being your slave. So, from slaves, you became the kings. You don't become slaves at any time, even now, do you? The old sanskars of being a slave don't ever emerge, do they? Do they emerge sometimes? Do you become slaves of Maya or not? Do you? A king can never be a slave. Your slavery has finished. Has it finished? Or do you sometimes enjoy it? So now Baba says the game of tapasya, that was about being kings, rajas, royal tapasya of royalty that was. And Rajas, you have heard the word, it's common. Rajas means kings. And now Baba says the game of tapasya. So Baba explains the power of tapasya is very elevated. And what tapasya do you do? Do you labor? Do you labor for tapasya? Do you? Even a little bit. Bap Dada had told you what tapasya is. To celebrate with pleasure. Tapasya means to sing and dance very easily. That is all. Is singing and dancing difficult or easy? Is it entertainment or is it labor? It is entertainment, is it not? What do you do when doing tapasya? Do you labor? The instant fruit of tapasya is happiness. What happens in happiness? You dance, do you not? So do you dance? So tapasya means to dance in happiness and to sing praise of Baba and your original eternal form. How great this song is and how easy it is. Is this song difficult? Is your throat all right with this? If it is not all right, there is no need to use it. So Baba said, so tapasya means to dance in happiness and to sing praise of Baba and your original eternal form. How great this song is and how easy it is. Is this song difficult? Is it? You can constantly sing this song. Continue to dance in constant happiness. So what is the meaning of tapasya? To dance and sing. How easy it is. Does your head become heavy? Or do you become double light? Does your head become heavy? Whose head becomes heavy? Those who make a very small mistake. No one's head can ever get heavy in Brahmin life. Does your head become heavy? Did the heads of those who built the hospital become heavy? The trustees are sitting in front. Are your heads heavy? Are they? Even a little bit. Since Baba is Karan Karavanhar, what burden do you have? Baba has made you the instruments in order to create your fortune. What responsibility do you have? Do you have a lot of responsibilities? Instead of it being Baba's responsibility, you consider it to be your responsibility, and so your head becomes heavy. Baba is the companion. If the Almighty Authority is your companion, what heaviness can there be? So you just make a small mistake. When you consider it to be your responsibility, your head becomes heavy. Brahmin life is to dance, sing, and experience pleasure. Whether it is service through action or through words, service is a game. Service is not anything else. It is a game. Some games are played with the intellect. and some are light games, but they are still games. Does your head become heavy with a game of the intellect? So you are playing all these games. You are not working. You are playing games, no matter how great a task that requires thinking may be, or work that requires attention may be. For a soul who is a master almighty authority, all this is a game. Is it like this? Or do you get tired by doing just a little bit? The majority of you are tireless, but sometimes you get a little tired, whether it be the treasure of time, thoughts, knowledge, or physical wealth. If you use it with the method of experimentation of yoga, each treasure will continue to increase. So then Baba says, experimentation. Baba is explaining on experimentation now. For service, Baba said it is a game and you will enjoy it. Now is experimentation of all the treasures, Baba said, so that we can continue to increase. In this year of tapasya, you have been experimenting with yoga. What did you experiment with? Experiment with each one of these treasures. How can you experiment? There should be less usage of any treasure, but greater attainment. Experiment by using the method of less labor and great success. For instance, take time or take thoughts. These are elevated treasures. There should be less usage of thoughts, but greater attainment. An ordinary person can experience success or attainment after 3 or 4 minutes of thinking, but you should be able to do it in 1 or 2 seconds in the Sakar form. Brahma Baba also used to call this less expenditure and greater splendor. Let there be less expenditure, but there should be 100-fold attainment. I believe yesterday's blessing was on about this, wasn't it? Baba said we should take only 1 second, whereas others may take minutes. So in becoming a point form.
I think yesterday's blessing was taken from this morning.
Yeah, seems like it. So, but even Brahma Baba, so Brahma Baba also used to call this less expenditure and greater splendor. Let there be less expenditure, but there should be 100-fold attainment. What will happen through this? Whatever saving there has been, whether in time or thoughts, you will be able to use the saving accumulated to serve others. So we just now said about grace and mercy. Baba explained it now. Who is able to give donations and perform charity? Those who have saved wealth. If you use everything for yourself, if you use up everything that you earn, you cannot give donations or perform charity. This is the experiment of yoga. In less time, there are greater results. with less thoughts. There should be greater experiences. Only then can you use all the treasures for others. In this way, use fewer words and actions and attain great success. Only then would it be called a wonder. What wonder did Bap Dada perform? What did Baba create in such a short space of time? This is why you say that it has been a wonder. In return of one, you experience multi-million-fold attainment. And this is why you say it is Baba's wonder. Just as the treasures and attainments from Bap Dada give greater experiences, in the same way, all of you must experiment with yoga. It is not just sung, Baba, it is your wonder. You are also those who perform wonders, and you do perform them. That's why we can use as a master, like Baba said, Baba's titles of being merciful, grace and all that. So Baba gave us all these answers, what we discussed just now. So Baba says, in return of one, you experience multi-million-fold attainment, and this is why you say it is Baba's wonder. Just as the treasures and attainments from Bap Dada give greater experiences, in the same way, all of you must experiment with yoga. It is not just sung, Baba, it is your wonder. You are also those who perform wonders, and you do perform them. What was the result of the majority that was seen during tapasya? The zeal and enthusiasm of tapasya is good. There is also attention and there is success. But you use the treasures more for yourself. To have experiences yourself is also a good thing, but the year of tapasya has been given for world service as well as for the self. Spread the vibrations of tapasya in the world with a fast speed. Increase the speed of the experiments of yoga in the laboratory of experiences. At the present time, all souls need to experience transformation through your powerful vibrations and atmosphere. This is why you must increase these experiments even more. And for us, Baba says, introvertness and silence is our laboratory. So go into that and experiment. And then come up like scientists do. They go into underground, to experiment into silence. And they are by themselves, they prefer that, and into silence, and then come up with experiments, don't they? So ours is introvertness, cave of introvertness, and then silence. And Baba says that this is why you must increase these experiments even more. And then we can come up with some new experiment, new products, new virtues, new powers. This is what Baba means. And now another explanation of the fruit of tapasya. There are many cooperative children here, Baba says. This cooperation will change into yoga. One variety are those who are loving and cooperative. The second are those who are cooperative and yogi. So the one Baba said, the first one, I'll read it again. This cooperation will change into yoga. One variety are those who are loving and cooperative. The second are those who are cooperative and yogi. And the third are constant yogis who experiment. So first are loving and cooperative. Second, those who are cooperative and yogi. But the third one, Baba says, are constant yogis who experiment. So they are constant. In Hindi, it is ekras, constant, without any break, without any. Now ask yourself, who am I? However, Bap Dada has love for all the three varieties of children. Many children's vibrations reach Bap Dada. There are different varieties of vibrations. Do you know which aspect has reached Baba? Have you understood, or will Baba have to tell you? Baba says, you are those who understand with a signal, are you not? What is the reason for all that is happening during the year of tapasya? You are carrying out huge projects. What is the reason for this? Some think that this is the fruit of tapasya, whereas others wonder why all this is being done during the year of tapasya. Baba experiences both the vibrations. However, the fruit of the power of tapasya is to supply the need with a fast speed of time and through the vibrations of tapasya. You have to eat the fruit, do you not? The drama is showing that tapasya can fulfill all needs easily at the right time. Do you understand? There cannot be the question, why is this happening? Tapasya means to experience success easily. As you go further, you will experience how the impossible becomes possible so easily. You will experience this more and more. The obstacles are fixed in the drama from the beginning to the end. These obstacles also give the experience of making the impossible possible. A few months ago, Murli's one Baba said, more obstacles come is a gift, too fun. They are tofa. So they are gifts. Remember, we read that Murli? Today, Baba says, it brings impossible into possible. So because they are fixed in the drama from the beginning to the end, these obstacles also give the experience of making the impossible possible. And all of you have become experienced. So what is an obstacle to you? It is just a game. You play football, do you not? What do? You only kick the ball when it comes to you. If the ball didn't come to you, how could you kick it? How could there be a game? This is also a football game. You enjoy it, do you not? You enjoy playing a game, do you not? Or do you get confused? You try to make the ball come to you so that you can kick it. This game will continue. It is nothing new. The drama shows games and it also brings you complete success. This is the custom and system of Brahmin clan. Acha, this group has had many chances to become an instrument for any task, to become an instrument with any method means to become a chancellor who takes a chance. Now, now Baba is explaining the wealth of sympathy. The wealth of sympathy. Baba says, in today's world, there are many people who have wealth. But what is the greatest aspect of wealth you have that the people of the world do not have? And that is what is needed today by those who are wealthy as well as by those who are poor. What wealth is that? So somebody must have replied, it's in the bracket, that of peace. So Bap Dada asked, how can there be peace? The greatest wealth, in Hindi wealth is sympathy, sampati. In need is sympathy. So sampati is wealth, S-A-M-P-A-T-T-I. And then greatest wealth, sampati, in need is some sympathy. Means even the wealthy need some sympathy or empathy, or consolation. We sometimes, we all need support, emotional supports. So Baba is playing the greatest wealth, sampati, in need is sympathy. Whether rich or poor, today there is no sympathy. The greatest wealth of all is sympathy. Don't give them anything else, but you can make them content with sympathy. And your sympathy is the real sympathy because of your relationship of the godly family. It is not temporary sympathy. Sympathy with a family feeling is the greatest sympathy. And everyone is in need of this, and you can give this. Do you have sympathy or do you lack it? Have you accumulated it? Sympathy, spiritual sympathy, brings fulfillment. It can also fulfill the need of the mind, body, and wealth. So Baba is talking about spiritual sympathy, brings fulfillment. It can also fulfill the need of the mind, body, and wealth. Baba will tell you more about this later. Acha, to the Tapasvi Rajas. So Baba is giving us remembrance as well as blessing. To the Tapasvi Rajas, the elevated souls in all four directions, to those who constantly experience elevated success through the experiment of yoga and less expenditure, to those who constantly remain lost in the tapasya of I am yours and you are mine, to those who constantly dance in happiness through tapasya, and those who sing praise of Baba and the self, to such children who stay in remembrance from this land and abroad. Bap Dada's love, remembrance, and namaste. Om Shanti.
Baba left it at an intriguing point of sympathy, that how we can fulfill body, mind, and wealth, and we'll have to look for the subsequent morally on that and read it another time. Would anyone like to come in and share anything?
There are 2 points that I take from this Murli in particular. And when Baba talking about the tapasya. And, you know, he mentioned the word slave, which is really, it's a word that you wouldn't normally use. Baba wouldn't normally use a word slave. Oh, I've not heard it before. But Baba said, you know, we are not slaves. And I think Baba, in always wanting to empower us, is that it's because a slave denotes subservient. I mean, not subservient in any way. All the Baba says he's our slave. But I think it's the word Baba comes to serve us. He always says, you know, he comes and he's the servant of us. And then at the ending of the Murli with his sympathy, I think it became clearer to me with Baba saying, you know, real spiritual sympathy towards souls is really encompassing that soul with the power of contentment. You know, that is really having sympathy for the soul, is bringing that soul to a level of being contented. So there's no lacking of anything, and there's no desire that brings sorrow. So those 2 things in particular I take.
In Hinduism, they sing it with such happiness. Main gulam hu, main gulam hu, main gulam tere. Now, I am your slave, I am your slave, I am your slave. They say it with such intoxication. So this is what Baba's reference is. It comes up in many of the religious hymns, many of the prayers, many of the films. This is so normal in Hinduism. So Baba is evoking. You want to say?
Yeah. And you know Hare Krishna, you see Hare Krishna people, their names always have Das. So because it's here slave, so you're taking that slave in outside when we slave. But here, Das means, you see, they don't want to, there's a blind faith as well as they don't want to have the courage, you know, to follow Baba's principles and things. That's why they always say that I am your Das. But you see, so you will see they have the, at the end of their names, they always say Das, D-A-S. So it's just a law.
That means servant.
Servant. But
So they will have
Mhm.
Krishna Das. You'll see many gurus with that Das at
Ram
the end.
Das.
Ram Das. That means I am the servant of Ram. I am the slave of Ram. So this is so inbuilt in the culture of Hinduism. Yeah, and then the second point, I think what I am capturing now, hearing the Murli, I didn't really capture it from the blessing yesterday, was Baba suggesting that sympathy is a siddhi. It's not just a quality. He's suggesting that it's a siddhi that can actually give attainment to others. So I want to read the subsequent Murli where he's explaining how sympathy can give wealth, can give health, all the attainments. So he's actually suggesting that spiritual sympathy is a siddhi, it's a spiritual capability that can actually give fulfillment. So I found that intriguing, but he just sort of mentioned it and then left it. He didn't expand on it. So I was really keen that he does expand, but he didn't this morning. I'll definitely look up what he said subsequently and we'll take it up again another time. Jagita Ben? You have to unmute yourself, sister.
Oh yes, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
I found it very interesting, the connection between spiritual sympathy and contentment, being a jewel of contentment that Baba said in last Sunday Murli, I thought, na? And because what comes up in me is that when we are being very grateful that we have found Baba as the solution after 63 births of searching and searching for solutions, and we realize what we have found, then automatically the contentment comes up in you. And look, now I have found what I was looking for. I only have to do what Baba asked me to do. So with that contentment, I think the, how do I say it, the achievement that you got when you became Babas, that you have everything available because you're Baba's child, then I think with that contentment, it is easier, or it is a way, the way to become spiritual sympathetic. I'm just thinking because Ambika Didi mentioned that, and it was in the Murli, it came up that contentment and spiritual sympathy are very much linked with each other. That's what came up in me.
Thank you for clarifying that. Would anyone else like to come in? Okay, so we've had a very rich conversation today. Thank you all for your input. I think we've gained some further clarity on all these concepts, and I think we're realizing since yesterday that sympathy, spiritual sympathy, is a very big topic, and it's a very big thing, and maybe it's something we need to think about more. Because we don't tend to maybe not even have it on the list of virtues. I'm not even sure it's there. We don't tend to think about that one too much. I suppose it's implied within love, but it's not really, we're not specifically thinking on it. But let's churn on it further during the week. All these different concepts. I think I'm also reminded by this morally on the experimentation of yoga, that Baba's saying that really see how the power of thought, how the power of feelings can affect the drama. Continue to just see how yoga power can bring success, and move away from trying to use words and actions to achieve things. See how yoga can just achieve everything for you in a shorter amount of time and with less effort. So, Sister Lynette's back on her veranda. Did you want to come in, Lynette, before we end today?
No, what the other sisters said, it's what I had in mind. So they explained everything that I also had, my thoughts were on. Shanti.
Yeah, and I'd like to say one thing. That Saraswati, from Australia. I hope Baba I feel Baba has given everyone's one answer, whatever, I think even in good wishes and this Murli, really, Baba, and also Baba pointed out that one word, that it is Baba, whatever is happening, any projects, anything, just give it to Baba. It's Baba's responsibility. Because I think that time global hospital was being built, and then they had bought land for Gyan Sarovar, and I think Shantivan, and there were lots of programs. They had invited VIPs and everybody to come, and so I think that's why Baba saw that some got heavy, because there was lots going on. And so just for us to remember that Karan Karavan Har is only Baba, if you just give it to Baba and become light.
Vikavet, did you want to come in?
Yeah, one of the things at the beginning also of the Murli with Baba on Tapasya, and this sentence always invokes such a deep feeling when Baba says, I am yours and you are mine. And that is such a feeling of such being absorbed with Baba is really, for me, what Tapasya is. This connection. And once you feel absorbed in that love, there's nothing else. And now there's so much to deal with yoga. So from time to time, I go through anything, I say, Baba, I am yours, keep holding my hand. I am yours, you are mine. And it centers me back. Om Shanti.
Yeah, thank you. Chiquita, did you want to come in? No? No. So everyone,
No, I just lost what did you say?
okay. Yeah, thank you. So thanks for the discussion this morning. I think it's been very helpful, very rich, and great morally. I mean, all the moralies are great, but this was another great one, really summarizing so many things we've been thinking about recently. Let's carry on with our experiments with Tavasya, and also let's actively utilize the wealth of sympathy for ourselves and others, and come back next week with maybe further ideas through those experiments. So Shanti, everyone, and all those on YouTube later on as well. Shanti, have a good week. Shanti.
Shanti, thank you.
Om
A blessed
Shanti.
week to you both. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Shanti.